Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving with your family and friends. I've been out for a little bit, but I am back. And you know what? I just realized 2.5 weeks from now is gonna be Christmas. So if you celebrate Christmas, wherever you are in the world, in the parts of the world, advance Merry Christmas to you and to your family. If you are in the Philippines, you're probably already starting to feel that joy of Christmas because Filipinos celebrate Christmas the big way. So there's nothing quite like Christmas in the Philippines, to be very honest. All right, so today I want to talk about something very interesting, I think. All right, I want to talk about the Philippines mythical love solution. We call that in the Philippines Gayuma, which is often translated as love potions. Now you would say, why do I need to know this? Well, at the end of the video, you will find out, all right? Okay, so Gayuma holds a significant place in Filipino folklore and cultural practices. Gayuma is brewed by witch doctors or mananambals. Some people in Tagalog version, we call this manggagamot. So they make this gayuma, and the mixture is believed to be the solution for a love that seems too impossible to have. Ranging from 500 to 1,000 pesos, customers are willing to pay for the antidote for unrequited feelings, sexual awakenings, or even lasting fidelity. Undeniably, love potions reflect how some people are willing to go the extra mile and pay for the cost of a love that defies logic. So there's a couple of ways people do this practice. This is where you're going to see that in the Philippines, there are some places where they still have a lot of pagan practices. And a lot of them actually who practice pagan practices are Catholic. So you're going to see this intersection of Catholicism and the pagan practices in the country. So the first very popular one is what they call the lingering scent of lumai. So, turning to Visayan superstitions, Millington and Maxfield speak of lumay, a drug sold by Negritos believed to summon the love of women. Lumay was traditionally used as incense, or how do you say that? I'm going to put in the screen. Maybe I'm not saying this properly. To smoke the clothes of the person one wished to enchant or to bewitch. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add my sources just in case you want to actually read up on it if you find this interesting. I'm going to add them all on my description so you can actually go to the actual articles, history, stuff that you can look up. All right, so that is the first one, the lingering scent of lumay. Now, the second one is what they called agimat. In Pangasinan, there is a story about a unique amulet that can only be found in the heart of a banana tree and falls only at midnight. Obtaining it is not easy as you must face spirits trying to take it away from you. This agimat, once you obtain this so-called agimat, not only it draws the desired woman's love, but also endows the man with irresistible charm and vigor. Some have also used religious medallions to talismans believed to captivate affections. There's this belief that objects imbued with their own spirit or imbowed, I'm not sure if I'm saying that properly. I'm going to put it on the screen. Every word that I'm not sure if I'm saying properly or pronouncing properly, I'm going to put on the screen. All right. All right. Imbued with their own spirit, wield a power that can be transferred to a person. All right, yeah, that one is quite popular back in the day, what they call a gimat. All right, the third one is what they called the actual love potion, something that you put in someone's drink or someone's food. Now, in the Leyte region, as documented by Galeon in 1976, tambalans, or this is what we also call manggagamot, mananambals, are primarily recognized for their healing abilities. You know, back in the day, if especially if you live in the very rural area, there's really not a lot of like medical doctors. So a lot of people rely on herbalists, you know. We have a lot of the old folks that know how to, practice certain things. They know a lot about herbs. They know how to do massages and techniques to help you heal. You know, a lot of people relied on that because there's not a lot of medical doctors back in the day. And of course, a lot of the medication, if I can call it medication, they use are herbs. But if you really think about it, a lot of our medicines are from plants too. So it makes sense, right? So these tambalans are primarily recognized for their healing abilities, yet they also possess the knowledge to craft gayuma or love potions. Inko Jose, A tambalan with a rich family heritage of healers whispers fragments of Latin verses during the portion's creation, invoking the romantic successes of Solomon and David to capture the essence of attraction. So traditional healers in Surigao del Norte have known to use the leaves of the shida, I'm not sure if I'm saying that properly, and seeds of pandan as antidotes to love potions. This suggests not only a belief in the efficacy of Gayuma, but also an acknowledgement of its potential to require countermeasures. So yes, they can create the love potion, but they can also provide you with an antidote to countermeasure it. So whether you believe in the efficacy of these methods or not, it's not going to hurt to know. And hopefully, you can pay close attention to certain things, especially if you are visiting a very rural town or rural barangay in the country. And you will ask why? Well, despite modernization, some Filipinos still believe in gayuma or love potions. That's why these potions are still widely available, not just in the rural areas of the country. In fact, in Manila, there is a very popular church, the Quiapo Catholic Church. And this is where you're going to see the intersection of the Catholic religion and then the pagan practices in the Philippines, because inside the church, of course, they are worshiping. The Catholic devotion reigns indoors, while folks outside, you will find that mythicism thrives on the sidewalks, literally just on the side of the church, at the back of the church. You will find a lot of vendors selling a lot of herbal medicines. Now, of course, they will tell you that these herbs, usually they're in this bottle. I'm going to try to put a picture. And they apparently can heal everything, even cancer. There's also a contradiction because, of course, the Catholic Church is very much against abortion. But then outside of that same church, the Catholic Church, you will find a lot of vendors selling herbal medication, usually in like, you will see them. They're like in like, they have it displayed. Maybe not the abortion herbs, but those herbs, those mixtures that they sell, they can abort babies. And that I heard is very effective. In fact, I know of someone who did buy those and it aborted their baby. Now, the other things they sell this there are obviously scams. Or if you really believe in it, like you put in faith on something, I guess it will work, right? So a lot of the things they sell there are medallions, some type of, again, love potion that you can apparently put in someone's drink or food or something like a souvenir they can carry to where they're gonna start, if they ingest that food or drink, if they carry that little object that you gave them, then they will start developing, affection or feelings for you, apparently. Now, despite its decline in popularity with centuries past, this forgotten heritage still thrives in various places. I could say that probably places, such as in Siquijor, this is in Visayan region, and other rural parts of the country, mostly the rural areas. Now, 2 decades ago, I've also heard of some people using some bizarre practices with the intent of bewitching or enchanting someone. Now, I'm going to talk about that, but I want to go ahead and share a little bit of, I guess, story on this. Now, as I've mentioned, this is where you're going to see the intersection of the Catholic practices and the pagan practices in the Philippines. Now, I know this very well because my grandparents practiced this, my maternal grandparents. They lived in Bohol and they were known as the hermana and hermano of the barangay. I'm sorry, my stomach's making noise. Sorry. So, usually these people, like my grandparents, they were very devout Catholics. They were known in town to be very religious, and people respected them. So people would go to them, asking them for prayers. Again, this is where you're gonna see the intersection of the Catholic practices and then the pagan practices. In the Catholic religion, they think that if someone dies, sometimes they don't go to heaven or hell. They stay in the purgatory, apparently, and then you can pray for them, and then they might go to heaven depending on how much you're praying for them. So, a lot of the people in the barangay would go to my grandparents, and then they would ask for prayers. And there is an exchange on that. They did not accept money because that wasn't really allowed. You're not supposed to accept money. But this is where you're going to see the intersection of that pagan practices. My grandparents, in exchange for prayers, they accepted offerings, and the offerings is usually meat. Okay, so they would bring like the best cut, I would say, of usually pork, because there's really not a lot of beef in the Philippines. So some people will also bring live chicken, and this is where you will see the pagan practices. They would literally like butcher the chicken in this altar. And I remember my grandparents have, of course, they have an altar inside the home, and they also have a little area at the back of their property. Now, my grandparents, if I recall, I'm trying to remember the look, the picture. I'm trying to remember that picture of, because I was young, I was 8 years old when I lived with them for a very short period of time. So they conducted these prayers, and they were all in Latin, by the way. So I didn't understand any of it, but they're all in Latin. They have books of prayers that they did for people, and in exchange for that offering, usually it is meat, some type of food, something that you would consider to be the best of what you have, basically. And the place they also lived, a lot of these places too, those people usually, those people who are respected by the town or by the barangay, they call them the hermana, hermano. A lot of them were known to have practiced some type of witchcraft, or they could be mananambals or manggagamot in town. They are considered faith healers as well. So that's, I just want to share that because I wanted to prove to you that there is definitely an intersection of the Catholic practices and the pagan practices in the Philippines. And even up to these days, people still do that in certain towns of the country. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that as a Westerner, you might ask, why do I need to know all of this? Well, other than it being entertaining, it's good to know because despite modernization, there's still a lot of Filipinos who are very superstitious. And, well, that's one thing. Being superstitious is one thing, but believing the efficacy of these methods, that's another thing. And there's still, there's some Filipinos who still believe in the efficacy of these methods. In fact, that's the reason why those businesses outside of the Quiapo Church in Manila is still thriving. Filipinos still buy it and use it. All right. And I've also heard that some people have tweaked some of these methods or practices. All right, let me share a little bit of a short story. Let's talk about a love potion. A woman from church told me that her husband is madly in love with her or fell in love with her, and the relationship is strong because of this method she used. Instead of using an actual mixture from a witch doctor, she said she added a special ingredient to his cup of coffee. Every time he visited her home, she would offer a cup of coffee and she added this ingredient. I thought, well, that's not what a Christian does. What did you do? What did you add? How did you get it? And she's like, no, no, no. I don't believe in witch doctors. That's what she said. But she said, I added a little something, she said, on his cup of coffee. And I said, what is it? She said, every time she made that coffee, she spat on it. She added her spit on his coffee. And I thought, that is disgusting. That is gross. And that's so disrespectful. That was my reaction. I was like, why would you do that? Well, she strongly believes that's the reason why he fell madly in love with her. And that's the reason why they have a very strong relationship, because she's got this hold on him. And I thought, oh, that's not what a Christian does. I was kind of like, no, no, no. You should have not done that. Does he know this? Did he ever found out? And she said, yeah, I told him about it and he doesn't mind. And I'm like, not good, not good. But yeah, some people out there are cray-cray, Some think that they can make a potion out of their bodily fluids to get someone to think of them, a potion to get someone to go on a date with them, and ultimately a potion to increase any romantic feelings that are already shared between two people. And I mentioned that to her. I was like, did you ever question or wondered why he kept visiting your family home to begin with? He's probably already interested in you to begin with. So there's really no magic there. She's like, no, no, no. It all happened very fast. After I started doing that, he started getting really serious. I'm like, wow, she really thought that's effective. And maybe it was because she really strongly believed on it. She had so much faith in it. But very unacceptable. All right, let's talk about the second thing that other people, some women, have used apparently. Praying for a man method. Now that sounds very sweet, especially if this feeling is mutual. You found a girl you had a crush on, or you have a crush on, or you have affections for, start praying for you. She's praying for your health, for your success, and all that. That sounds so sweet, unless she's consulting some spiritual doctor to pray for you. That's creepy. And I've heard of some women doing that. And some would even go a little bit borderline satanic, I think. Well, that's my opinion. And they would take the man's picture to this spirit doctor and they would ask for prayers. Of course, they had to pay for that service, but that's just so weird. Imagine yourself finding out that someone's doing that, like for you. They're praying that you develop affections for them that way. I've heard of someone doing that. That is so bizarre. Crazy. Cray people out there. All right, charms and spells method. Some women, again, this is what back in the day. I don't think they still do this. I hope not. But I've heard of a woman from school saying that she's made a special like charm for the guy she had a crush on, and she's hoping that that would be effective. She believes in spirits, and she said that she's imparted her spirit on that little object, and hopefully by him wearing that object he would develop feelings for her. Again, very bizarre methods, but a lot of people really strongly believe on these things because looking at the history of the country. I mean, before the Catholics came to the Philippines, before it was even Philippines, but people living in the country, very much similar to like the American Indians, you know, they worship spirits. A lot of people think that certain places, like very old trees, 100-year-old trees, anything really, structure, mountains, body, water, they think those places have guardians and they ask for permission whenever they pass or use something in that place. So yeah, they were very like into nature, like they literally worship nature. All right, before I'm making this video too long, I want to end this here. If you have any comments you'd like to share, you're welcome to do that in my comment section below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you everyone. Bye.